Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more of the Cretan Chronicles. We're continuing the Bloodfeud of Altheus, and in the last episode we covered quite a bit of ground, or rather water, and we've got quite a considerable amount of ocean still to cross before our arrival at Crete, which I suspect will be the end of the book. Now I don't know how long I've got to record this morning, so I'm just going to go as long as I can. Might have to cut it a bit short, we'll see. And I'm going to start, of course, with a recap of the previous section. From the next day and night, the ship is driven by a great heaven-sent storm through the deep-running waters of ocean, and its timbers are broken. 3 oarsmen are cast into the black whirlpools, never to return to the world of mortal men. Of this you see little, Altheus, for you are too ill. Perhaps your passage would have been easier if Hermes the messenger had granted you the use of his feathered wings to fly to fair Crete. At first the ship, battered by storm and serpent, At last the ship, battered by storm and serpent, arrives at Sifnos for repairs, and to take on fresh water to slake the thirst of the tired seamen. You emerge onto the deck, but are carried down the gangway to the harbour, while the crowds look on at this strange ship from Athens. You slump down beside a pile of well-woven baskets, and an old woman revives you with a bunch of grapes. We could follow the captain around Sifnos, explore the island on our own, moving boldly into the interior, or stay at the quayside while the fast-moving ship is repaired. Well, we've never been here before and the captain has, so let's stick with him for now. Quickly you move away from the strong benched vessels in the harbour, where swift preparations are made for the repair of the ship. The Athenians bound for Crete stand in a forlorn group, chattering among themselves, but you leave them behind. At last you catch up with the captain, who is talking to a man outside the inn. He hands over some scrolls of parchment, and then speaks to you with winged words. "Come in and join me for a drink." We have a clue. To your horror, you notice that the documents destined for Minos at Crete are among the papers. Hurriedly you stop the innkeeper and explain the mistake. He smiles and hands them back. You decide that it would be better to return to the ship before the malicious barbs of the spirits of Sifnos can wound you further. Well, lucky we noticed that. There's been some bad clues lately, but, there's also good ones. You almost shake with joy as you return to the harbour, but you have... You almost shake with joy as you return to the harbour that you have recovered the precious letters to Minos. If you had not had them, the wrath of the gods and men at your mission's ending would have been as the stormy anger of the Olympians against the earth-built Titans, penned in their fiery tombs as punishment for the destruction wrought upon the fair green world. The authors of this book series have a very poetic bent. They like metaphors and similes. Mostly metaphors. I don't think we've seen that many similes yet, if I'm remembering the difference between the two correctly. One is when you say something is like something. Like, the moon was like a piece of green cheese. Whereas simile is where you omit the word like and make it like, the moon, a hunk of green cheese hung in the sky. It's trying to make it stronger. It's where you are insisting that no, it really is this thing, even though we both know it isn't. It's where you're trying to give the strong impression rather than saying, oh yeah, it's a little bit like that. And we've seen that time and time again in this book so far. The ship is now prepared for the long journey ahead. Everything except the figurehead is replaced, but this cannot be save on one festival day of the year when the priests of the city's patron may bless it and instill it with her power. You must traverse the seas without its protection, but if fearsome Poseidon is merciful, then the slender flame of your life's course may burn on to the Cretan shores. The captain is unsure now which route he should take for Crete. He must go ashore at fire-pent Favour, home of lame Hephaestus, god of fire and craft, but either Melos or Apollo's Isle of Delos seems equally balanced for the intervening stop. The gnarled and sea-wise man turns to you for advice. We could go to Melos, which we know nothing about, or Delos, which is sacred to the god Apollo, who looks upon us favourably. So if we have a hard time there, we're likely to do better than at Melos, where no god watches over our path. So to Delos we shall go. Aeolus, lord of the winds and weather, is not kind to you, and the way to Delos is hard, the ship furrowing the sea like a plough across stony ground when the farmer grows tired and can hardly go on. At last the Isle of Delos is in sight, cliffs strangely large and glowing in the dawn sun. The sailors make ready to land, their long flowing hair blowing in the breeze. At your landing, you are greeted by the headman of the island, who implores you to save them, for an evil man has taken up residence in the temple of Apollo and will not move. Perhaps you can drive him away. The man implores you once again, and his robe of green and long white beard seems strangely pathetic. We should. We've skimped on a few honour points. We could have probably got some honour points in the chariot race if we'd taken a massive risk and lost the most important thing on our quest. We shall help and fight the evil man. You are conducted past the great marble buildings of the tiny isle to the place where Apollo has his sanctuary, the place of his birth, a gift from Poseidon in exchange for Caloria. Before the temple gates stands a man robed in black, wearing black armour with a sword of deepest night, as if it were a heavenly blade cast out of the sky and charred and burnt in its descent to Delos. "Stranger," he croaks, his voice hoarse and hard, "fight or die." You must fight. There's a clue here. Now, we've been punished for following some wrong clues in the past, and this is the temple to Apollo. He's probably watching our actions. I doubt he hasn't intervened yet himself. So I'm not sure praying to him would be the best choice. The man has a might of 7 and protection of 13, which includes a sword for might 2, greaves for protection 1, breastplate for protection 3, which is better than our protection 2 breastplate. This man really feels like some sort of chaos warrior. So his might is slightly higher than ours, his protection slightly lower. For this fight only, subtract 2 from your might because of seasickness. Okay. Well, we should be using our sword for this fight. Instead of the sharp knife which we had to use against the sea serpent. We still have our shield and breastplate, and the blessing of Athena. So let's fight. Well, as usual, we're on 2 dice, plus 5. Looking for a 13, we'd need an 8. Let's spend 2 honour to take us up to a plus 7. So we'd need a 6. 9 plus 7 is 16. The evil man is wounded. Now he strikes at us, also with a plus 7, and gets a 14. 7 plus 7 is 14. Our protection of 15 has saved us. I was tempted to use honour there as well. I will use 2 honour in the next round. And we roll a 3. So we get a 10 and miss. He then strikes at us and wounds us 2. In which case, I will spend 2 more honour. We get a 16 and injure him. He is now seriously wounded. Which means he only rolls 1 die, plus 7. A 6 will still hit us. But no, he rolled a 2, so he gets 9. Because he is seriously wounded, I will not spend any more honour unless we become seriously wounded. We roll 10 plus 5 is 5. Great stuff. Hooray. Oh, interesting. Why is this one not showing the individual dice rolls where the previous ones did? And he has progressed from seriously wounded to dead. Oh, we seriously wounded him. We should have stopped right there. Okay. As your blade strikes through the body of the man, his visage seems to dissolve and his body to crumple and vanish. All that is left is a heap of charred armour and weapons, burning their imprint into the ground as the fire that ravages the god-favoured citadel. As the fire that... That doesn't quite work as a sentence. As the fire that ravages the god-favoured citadel does what? Burns. Burning that imprint of the ground is... Have 5 honour points for your victory. Well, we spent 4, and I'm going to generously presume that we can't get his badly burnt equipment. I'll presume this picture is of his gear, even though he had no helm. Ooh. The temple is a small and simple affair. The priest is not here. He died at the hands of the hellish man, explains an elder. There will be no more prophecies on Delos until the god touches one of us with that gift and curse which bestows great honour and takes away all peace. Apollo is not our patron, but we are in favour with him. If we were disfavour, maybe he'd go up to neutral. If he was neutral, maybe go to favour. But he likes us already. We've done him good deeds in the past. As you turn to leave, there stands before you divine Apollo, robe besmirched and hair unkempt. I'm awfully sorry, he says. I got up rather late and almost failed to come. Immortality makes one so sleepy. Oh yes, a prophecy. Man of bronze beneath the waves, sending folk to early graves, there lies your death. That sounds like Talos. I will note this one anyway. Now, sorry, mustache. With this, divine Apollo is gone. Perturbed by the god's actions, you carry on out of the door and realize that the elders are far in front of you. They cannot have heard Apollo's prophecy. You have to hurry to catch up. Now, most people know Talos from the film Jason and the Argonauts. Talos isn't actually in that story. He's in the story of Cadmus, which comes earlier. And when Jason arrives at... It's not Colchis, is it? That's Aeetes at Colchis. It's the other one over near Turkey, beyond the Hellespont and the Clashing Rocks. He meets the king, who challenges him, and Jason says, I know the story of... I know the story of Cadmus. Because when he has to deal with the sons of the dragon's teeth, he does it exactly the same way Cadmus did in an earlier story, and Cadmus slew the dragon as well. Also, there's no Hydra in that story. There is a dragon which guards the golden fleece, but Medea puts it to sleep with a powerful spell, so that Jason can steal the fleece without having to fight the dragon, because it would slay him utterly. It was a great film, though, just not entirely accurate. You are thanked profusely for your help as also that fake prince, who was a traitor, doesn't even exist. They just added him for the film. And also the incident of losing the golden sandal was messed up. He was supposed to be carrying Hera across the stream, not rescuing the king. Anyway. You are thanked profuse. Also, they didn't have American accents. Just to be clear, ancient Greeks did not have American accents. They had Greek accents, which probably sounded rather different. And they obviously spoke a different language. Since we're mentioning differences, also the Harpies harassing the blind prophet, that's out of the Odyssey. Yeah, they really cobbled some stuff together there. They were just like, yeah, what can we create with special effects? Let's write a script around it, and what can we sort of call it? Oh yeah, this mostly, we just shove this stuff in there as well. The audience won't care. They don't know anything about it. You are thanked profusely for your help as a hero, for releasing them from ill-bearing death and fear, and returning their pride and their sacred shrine. As a token of their joy, they pile your ship high with provisions and offer you a gift, either an onyx brooch on which is carved a figure of an old man, or a leather pouch that contains a wooden twig. Let's honour the old man. The wooden twig is probably really useful, but also probably a single-use item. Probably snap it to activate it. The brooch might also be a single-use item, but let's find out. Whenever you feel you are able, you may sacrifice 10 honour points to Zeus. He will then listen to your prayers one extra time. After this, the brooch is useless except as a present, bribe, or souvenir. Okay, hang on. Now, I'd only then. No, we'll just go. No. 593, not 193. There we go. We are getting slung around the book quite a lot, aren't we? Some very large movements between sections, often 100 or more. Away from blessed Delos, the ship flies across the water towards Hephaestus' Isle of Phaera. Your weary limbs feel better now, and you're able to walk on the deck, admiring the waters and the craggy isles you pass, except when squalls suddenly come and send you scurrying beneath, feeling as if your body is riddled with feathered arrows. At last the ship comes in sight of Fera, where the Phoenicians dwell. This is where the Phoenicians are? I thought they were further over to the west. Interesting. Wait, am I confusing them with the other? You disembark on Fera, which, despite its appearance from afar, seems a gloomy place. You have not been travelling for long when you see a strange sight. A woman on a golden throne is sitting beneath the cliff. Beside her is a proud warrior bearing a mighty shafted spear, and standing alongside him is a lame man dressed in the apron of a blacksmith bearing a hammer of black metal. As fast as the thunder flash that comes from Zeus, the cliff begins to crumble. "Save us!" the figures cry in unison. You are the closest, and have time to save only one. Hera is not our patron. Ares is not our patron. I imagine if Ares was our patron, we may be compelled to save the soldier. And if Hera our patron, likewise the woman on the golden throne. As this is not the case, we are given free choice, presumably. Or maybe they'll say this is a false choice, that's an illusion, that represents me, but it doesn't. Let's see. Do you try to save the gold-throned woman, the lame blacksmith, or the mighty warrior? Now, this island is sacred to Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the crippled god. He has a crooked leg. He is also the husband of Aphrodite, and she betrays him by having multiple affairs with Ares. So if we were to do something to please Ares here, Hephaestus would really not look fondly upon me. When Hephaestus discovers Aphrodite is having an affair with the young soldier, he constructs a net which he hangs over the bed and causes it to come down and trap them in their lovemaking, then invites all the gods and goddesses of Olympus to come in and mock them and laugh at them while they're trapped there in the bed together. Hera is spiteful and can get really nasty when she doesn't get her way. But this isn't her island. This is the Isle of Hephaestus. We will save the lame smith. The fact that him being lame has been pointed out twice so far. Once when three times. First when we were told the island is sacred to him. Second time when we saw the three figures beneath the cliff. And the third time here. That's pretty heavy-handed. We'll take the hint and save the smith on the smith god's isle. At very peril of your life, you rush through the hail of stones to reach the blacksmith. Also, the soldier is a strong man. The warrior, he fights, he's strong, he accepts danger. In this vital situation, he would expect the other two to be saved first if he is a strong embodiment of the honourable warrior. The woman on the golden throne is a bit harder to justify. Anyway, you close your eyes to protect them against the rain of death-dealing dust. When you open them again, the rockfall has ceased, and the cliff stands black and brooding as ever. The lame man stands smiling, and you can see him more clearly now. He wears a pointed cap and bears a hammer with which he strokes his great brown beard. His ashen grey tunic does not cover his right shoulder. "I greet you," he says. He booms, his voice like the rumbling of a volcano. "You have chosen well, and I will reward you." He turns, and for a moment you see in the rock a great workshop, shining like the stars, with an anvil and a multitude of bellows, blowing like the great storms that break the hollow ships and send the crews to their doom. Then just as swiftly the scene vanishes. In his arm he bears a breastplate, shield, and sword. He hands them to you, and they shine in the sunlight, like the sun come to earth, plain worked, but stronger than death. You take these divine gifts and marvel, but as you do, the god is gone back to his celestial workshop. These weapons are divine work, and are therefore mighty indeed. Normally, the breastplate is protection 4, the shield protection 4, and the sword might 4. But when fighting divine or divinely built creatures, all values are at 6, not 4. Such creatures are marked in the text with an asterisk before their might value. You are in favour with Hephaestus. And I think we'll leave our sword, shield, and breastplate here. We have a magic sword. +2 against asterisks. A magic shield. Also, and a magic breastplate. Meaning, our might now is at 8. Our protection is at 19, and we'll gain an additional 2 might and 4 protection against oh, Hephaestus isn't even on the list. We can fix that. There we go. Since this book appears to be written by multiple authors, it's entirely possible some of them might not have wanted to track the asterisks for supernatural creatures in future books. And as such, these items may be removed, possibly even at the beginning of book 2, if we're going to be going into the maze of the Minotaur as a prisoner, if we're following the tale closely. The mighty masted ship is now prepared for the long sail from Fera to Crete. The captain pours a libation of red wine into the waters, praying to great Poseidon for safe passage. The wind, which starts strong, so that the ship can sail under its doom-black sails bearing its blood cargo to Crete, soon builds up to a storm. Poseidon is not our patron, and is still neutral towards us. So then, okay, roll a die. You may expend this number of honor points in a prayer to Poseidon. Otherwise, you face the churning sea without a prayer to the ocean god. Single die roll. 3. We can afford 3 honor points. I mean, we're 4 down from the start of the session, but you know, we had a decent amount to begin with. The wind blows into a gale, and the ship is tossed from side to side. The masts are stripped of their black cloth sails, which are thrown into the sea, and then they too are splintered like the stockade before the coming of the angry boar, its mouth foaming, its eyes wild as the stormy seas. The ship is beaten down by the fury of the waves, and all aboard fear for their lives. You may either sacrifice 2 more honor points to Poseidon or trust in your own ability to ride out the waves. Well, we need the ship to arrive safely as well. So let us indeed offer up 2 more honor points. Storm-battered and sea-stained, bruised by the relentless swell, you lose hold of your possessions. You lose 1 piece of armor of your choice. Well, guess what? We had a spare sword, spare shield, spare breastplate. So let's just add those in again briefly. And the small shield is, it's lighter, so it can get washed away quicker. Sure. And 1 weapon of your... lose 1 piece of armor of your choice. 1 weapon. So we'll go with the old sword, as we're clinging onto our new things. And 1 other item from your chronicle sheet, which must not be armor or weapons. You may not lose the documents for Minos, or anything of Antiope's, which we will definitely need in the next book. Note that if you only possess 1 item in any of these categories, you need not lose it. For example, if you have only 1 piece of armor, you may keep it. So, with the Mother's Gem, Aegeus' letter to Minos, and Antiope's golden brooch, which we can't lose either of those 2. So we can lose the golden ruby amulet, or the brooch with a picture of an old man. We haven't had to pray to Zeus yet, but being able to do so twice in a single book may be very useful in the future. The golden ruby amulet two might or 2 protection is not now as much as it once was. And we'd have to sacrifice our first attack in combat to use it. Additionally, if we encounter the Furies again in the future, I believe we shall in Book 3. I'm trying to remember how we get tricked into leaving the king's daughter behind on the island and getting the original ending for the story, which is actually the correct ending for this trilogy. Do the Furies turn up and demand we do so? I'm not certain. However, we have upset the Furies. In the future, will we be asked if we have this golden ruby amulet, or will we be asked if we're in disfavour with the Furies? Probably if we're in disfavour with the Furies, given the way things have been up. But let's just... this can be torn from our hands by the storm. Maybe if we'd managed to pick up another item, we could let that go as well. For 7 days and 7 nights the storm rages, and you are blown hopelessly off course. Without rest the captain strives to keep his ship afloat. The wood of the prow splinters and is gone. The chest containing Aegeus' gifts to Minos, statuettes of the gods carved in gold and silver, is swept overboard. Only the will of Zeus keeps the vessel above the whirling waters, while the minions of Poseidon do their best to batter it. You remain below decks, no good sailor, your very life seeming to seep away as the ship rises and falls. At long last, when you had almost forgotten that great ocean, Poseidon's realm, has bounds, the cry goes up that land is in sight, and it is Cythera, Aphrodite's island. Well now, We've found ourselves somewhere. Have we been blown really far off course? You know, we've just met her husband. O Cythera, you are fairer by far than the finest flower of Aegeus' garden and the realm of Attica, bedecked in summer's finery, while the breath of the fair goddess soothes all it touches. All is peace. Yet even in gardens there is a place where a tall cypress casts its shadow and nothing may grow. You hear shouts and screams. You notice a small boat driven against the life-rending rocks at the beach's edge. A woman shouts out in distress and mortal danger. We could decide not to risk the rocks, or go, hey, this is Aphrodite's island. This could be the goddess testing us. We've had a lot of divine visitations in this series. Hang on. We got a clue here. As long as the clue doesn't waste too much time, we don't lose a woman, I think it's safe. Okay, 598. In your frenzied hurry, you nearly dived in with all your armour. Stripping down to your loincloth, you plunge in. I remember, beneath the waves, sending folk to early graves, there lies your death. I suspect we might actually have a fight with Talos, and he may attack our ship, and we may get an option to jump into the water, in which case that's the worst thing we could possibly do. Stripping down to your loincloth, you plunge in. As you are not a strong swimmer, you take 10 minutes to cover the 100 yards or so to the boat. Oh, that is terrible. You take hold of it, and almost by a miracle it seems immensely light as the feathers of the birds which fly high above the care-worn earth. The woman smiles sweetly. My hero, you have rescued me. Aphrodite is not our patron, but hopefully she'll be grateful we made the effort anyway. You maneuver the boat away from the rocks. The woman throws her arm around your neck and kisses you on the forehead. Just as you are beginning to enjoy yourself, the husky-voiced one disappears and you are left to swim back to the ship. Have 3 honour points. You know, kind of makes up for some of the ones we've used earlier on. Takes us back up to 28. And then we go almost to the other end of the book. Wandering at the will of the gods, you wander along the sands of Cythera, looking for a place to rest while the ship is repaired. You will need to build a shelter from the plentiful branches and remains of earlier wrecks. The crew is busy with the ship, and the young men and maidens among you and the captain have gone in the opposite direction. Hang on. No, The crew is busy with the ship, and the young men and maidens, avoiding both you and the captain, have gone in the opposite direction. You are alone, therefore, when you see a man dressed in oil-stained rags, his hair white, eyes wild and beard unkempt. He too catches sight of you and runs along the sand straight towards you. Too stunned to react, you do not move, and the old man, perhaps a native of these parts, perhaps a survivor of some wreck, begins to rant incoherently. We could attack him in case he becomes violent, or stay and try to understand what he's saying. It could well be a warning, like, don't take the wood from the island. I think we should listen. If we're going to fight him, he can start it. He doesn't look that dangerous, although possibly savage and desperate. A gift! A gift! Shrieks the old man with unholy glee, picking small insects out of his beard and squashing them between his fingers. You find that most of your possessions are on the ship. You could give him some food, a piece of armour, or a weapon. Alternatively, you could give him nothing. He's literally eating insects. Let's give him some food. "Ah, food!" cries the old man, licking his fingers with delight. "Just as the ambrosia that sustains the high Olympian gods, he seizes the proffered cheese, which creates in their veins ichor, the lifeblood of the divine ones, yet from their feet the blood may flow." Again, Talos has the plug in his ankle from which the ichor can flow. That's another wounding about ichor. Before you can ask what he might mean, he is gone, back to whatever hovel he inhabits. We do get an honour point, though. Bit heavy-handed. So then, I mean, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, but it's a well-presented hodgepodge of things cobbled together. You know, I'm getting a bit of a vibe here, right? It is now several days since your arrival at Cythera. The ship is as well prepared as the captain can manage with the materials available. Reluctant to risk his vessel, yet spurred on by the responsibility of the task he has undertaken, he decides to set sail once more. The remnants of the sail are hoisted, and they flutter like great black crows in the breeze. As you get under way, the captain entertains you with stories of Talos, the great bronze man of Crete, who walks around the island 3 or 4 times a day, attacking all those who mean Crete harm. Sometimes it preys on shipping, but no Cretan could kill it, nor would want to. Crete is not far, and soon you will be at the court of King Minos. There's a clue here, and we should take it. The throne of Knossos is gypsum, and has a griffin carved on either side. Have one shame point. Okay, I'm checking if that's the same. 158. It is. But another warning of Talos. Oh. Oh no. Technical issues. Okay. Everything's working again. I'll go back to the beginning of this section, I think. Hang on. Okay, 158 it was. No need to reiterate that one. Oh, another clue. It is now just before noon. High overhead, the sun seems to set the very sea aflame. The ship is coming closer to the Cretan land. At the very edge of the horizon, one of the Athenian girls thinks she can make out the shoreline. Aphrodite is not our patron, but we do have a clue. Talos is nowhere to be seen, and you realize that he must come upon you from the west, so that to move into the shore with an easterly slant would give you a better chance of avoiding him. Just as you confide your heaven-sent insight to the captain, the earth beneath the sea begins to tremble. The very fish in their seaweed-covered realm are feeling the shock. Talos comes. You look to the west, and there, towering above the cliffs, is Talos, perhaps 200 feet tall. Yet he is too far away to destroy the ship with his brazen arms. Instead, he casts rocks at you. There'll be time for 5 rounds of combat, and the weapons you have which will reach that far are a supply of the ship's harpoons, with a might of 2. Talos has a might of 14 and a protection of 18, and the rocks are counted as might 0. We can try to hit him 3 times, which would involve spending an awful lot of might. His might of 14 means that we will be a 23 defense, so actually, we'll write this down. So we're not likely to be able to get at his ankle yet. There may be a later confrontation once we get onto dry land. With our harpoons, we are might 6. So we'd need a 12 to hit that 18. And to strike him 3 times, we'd be needing to spend at least 15 honor, which would bring us down to the shame threshold, realistically. So it's all about protection. We do not wish to perish. We do not wish to surrender. How do we retreat on the ship? The ship would need to retreat itself. So, I'm going to spend 3 points of honor to raise our attack up to a 9. Hey, 7 plus 9 is 16, not enough for a hit, but that's okay. Talos will then throw a boulder at us with a might of... Because remember, we can't use our magic sword against him at this distance. With a impressive might of 14. However, our shield and breastplate will fully protect us, pushing our defense up to 23. He gets a 20, which is a miss. There's one round. Round 2. We'll just throw our 2 plus 6, hoping for a double 6. We don't get it. He'll lob at 14. 18, not a 23. Our second round of combat has been completed. For the third one, we're at 6. Again, no damage. Unsurprisingly, if we could strike him in 3 times in 5 rounds, we would essentially be burning an awful lot of honor to do so, and would deserve whatever rewards we may get for it. But it's more honor than we'd probably get. So he hurls another boulder. Again, he has missed the ship, but he's getting very close. Round 4. For God's sake. Okay, we got a 16. Which is not quite enough. And he hurls a boulder and strikes us. We are now wounded. Perhaps not a direct hit from the boulder, but more, damaged wood flying and splintering from the ship. And I don't mean tiny little splinters, I mean like fragments of wood being knocked off and going everywhere. For the final round, as the rowers row, we hurl... Oh, so close! But not quite enough. And he will cast one last boulder at us as we pass out a distance. Oh. You are now out of range of Talos's boulders and can sail towards Crete. As you make for the coast, you see that the bronze giant has caught a foot on the seabed and fallen over. Interesting. But he may stand up and come after us still. leaving the figure of Talos stretched out on the shallow floor of the sea where he has fallen. That is a sentence which sounds like it is constructed in case we had managed to defeat him as well. You proceed on to Crete. The sun shines dimmer now, partly hidden by clouds of a strange greenish hue. Perhaps, if we had not taken the hint, we may have passed closer to him and would have had a more direct confrontation. And that's where the option to leap into the sea and be destroyed would be. The sun shines dimmer now, partly hidden by clouds of a strange greenish hue, which I think I've read already, but just getting it out there in case I haven't. One of the sailors shouts, and the others take up the cry. You rush to the bow, and then even you, amicable Altheus, can see it no longer just a word to you. Crete, in all her savage beauty, fills the horizon. The 7 youths and 7 maidens stand in silence, apprehensive of their fate, and you, Altheus, are not immune from the chill hand clutching at their hearts. You have come far and traversed lands that few who are not heroes would have dared. You think of your mother, Aethra, so far away in Trozen, whom you left so long ago. Your trials have been many. The journey to Athens, the war against the Amazons, the voyage, the sea serpent, Fera, Cythera, and most recently of all, the grim, high-towering Talos, killer of all things mortal, crusher of beauty, scourge of Attic youth. Your journey is over. Your quest has just begun. The adventure continues At the Court of King Minos, and we will absolutely be continuing of that book in the near future. However, I'd like to remind you all that with gamebook series I take a week off in between books, so I have a bit of a break to keep things fresh. We've done it. We've completed the journey, and in reasonably decent shape. We probably will... There's a high chance that King Minos will try to strip us of our weapons and armor before sending us into the labyrinth itself, because he's likely to treat us all as prisoners, so I don't know how much of this we can keep. It's entirely possible that these were only for the conflict with Talos. We'll give that a thought, shall we? As usual with Gamebook series, I will treat the end of each book as a save point. So if we die in book 2, we will continue with this backup character sheet from the beginning of this book, as if we had played through the previous book and got all the same results. There we go. I'm glad to have finally got this one out of the way. I've been meaning to do it for some time now. And at least one of you was quite enthusiastic about it, so that's something. I hope you've all enjoyed this adventure with me, and we'll be continuing on in the very next book in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you all very much for watching. We're all heroes.